When news broke that former President Donald Trump was rolling out new travel restrictions targeting several Caribbean nations, shockwaves rippled across the region and into the global community. These weren't minor policy tweaks buried in legislative paperwork. They were bold, sweeping decisions that immediately impacted millions of lives. Students, families, entrepreneurs, and entire national economies. Framed under the guise of national security and visa compliance, these new rules reignited fierce debates over racism, fairness, and the real motives behind U.S. immigration policy. It's more than just a policy change. It's a human crisis in the making. As the rhetoric gets louder and the consequences deepen, one question looms large. Is this really about security? Or is it part of a bigger, more troubling agenda? Haiti was the first to be hit hard. The Trump administration cited security concerns and visa overstay rates as the main reasons for imposing harsh new travel limitations. According to official data, nearly 15% of Haitian visa holders were accused of overstaying their visas in the US, which placed the nation high on the so-called risk index. But these numbers, while not insignificant, failed to capture the full picture. Haiti has long endured political instability, gang violence, and recurring natural disasters. In the wake of the 2010 earthquake, Haitians were granted temporary protected status, TPS, to remain in the US. Now, even as their country continues to reel from crisis after crisis, this lifeline is being systematically cut. The implications are devastating, not only for individuals trying to escape hardship, but for families who rely on money sent home from loved ones working abroad. For a nation already on its knees, these restrictions are more than a policy shift. They're a blow to the country's survival. The crackdown didn't stop with Haiti. Jamaica, a country with deep-rooted historical ties to the US, was the next to feel the pressure. The Trump administration quietly implemented stricter visa policies that included longer interview wait times, more exhaustive documentation requirements, and significantly higher denial rates. Official reasoning pointed to visa fraud prevention and national security. But critics were quick to highlight a disturbing inconsistency. Jamaica's visa overstay rate was just 3%, lower than that of many countries not facing such restrictions. If the data doesn't support the policy, what does? For many observers, the message was clear. This wasn't about fraud. It was about sending a signal that Black immigrants, no matter how law-abiding or qualified, are not welcome. This message has rippled across Jamaican society, especially among students, business owners, and even medical patients who now find themselves trapped in bureaucratic limbo, unsure whether they'll ever be able to reconnect with family or fulfill professional goals in the US. This isn't just about who gets a visa and who doesn't. The ripple effects of these policies touch every layer of Caribbean life, and the economic consequences are staggering. In 2023 alone, Jamaicans living abroad sent home over $3 billion in remittances. That money feeds families, funds schools, and supports small businesses. By making it harder for Jamaicans to travel or work in the US, the administration jeopardizes this financial lifeline. American businesses also stand to lose. The tourism and hospitality sectors in both countries are intricately linked. American airlines, hotels, and cruise lines profit immensely from tourism to Jamaica, and vice versa. A breakdown in travel could trigger a domino effect. Less travel means less business, which in turn leads to job losses and reduced bilateral cooperation. The irony is painful. Jamaica has been a strong ally in fighting cross-border crime, including drug and gang activity. Yet now, the same country is being treated with widespread suspicion, a development that feels less like policy and more like betrayal. Even the Bahamas, long seen as a safe and luxurious getaway for American tourists, hasn't been spared. The US government recently issued a Level 2 travel advisory for the Bahamas, warning Americans to exercise increased caution due to alleged crime rates. At the same time, Bahamians trying to travel to the US are encountering stricter visa interviews and more intense scrutiny. The logic here seems twisted. Americans are still flying to the Bahamas in droves for spring break and weddings, but Bahamians seeking to visit the US are met with red tape and suspicion. The true issue, according to immigration officials, lies in the Bahamas being used as a transit point for migrants attempting to reach US shores by boat. But instead of addressing the root of this challenge with meaningful diplomatic cooperation or regional support, the US appears to be punishing ordinary Bahamians, creating a rift that could have long-lasting diplomatic consequences. The Dominican Republic, another key ally and economic partner, has also been swept into the crackdown. New restrictions target what officials describe as fraudulent visa applications and so-called birth tourism, or anchor baby cases, where foreign nationals allegedly give birth in the US to obtain citizenship for their children. While such practices do exist, they are by no means unique to the Dominican Republic. Birth tourism is a global issue, and yet the response from the Trump administration has been to paint the entire nation with a broad, accusatory brush. Over 3 million Americans visit the DR each year, and Dominican businesses benefit from this influx. The reverse, however, is now being constrained. Dominicans seeking to visit family, conduct trade, or pursue education in the US are increasingly denied or delayed. The asymmetry is glaring. American influencers can party in Punta Cana without barriers, but Dominicans hoping to attend a wedding or meet a newborn niece in the States are blocked at the gate. The unfairness of this policy has not gone unnoticed, and it's breeding resentment. Under the Trump administration, Cuba saw the reversal of many Obama-era travel and diplomatic policies. New restrictions made it harder for Cubans to obtain visas and for Americans to visit for educational, cultural, or personal reasons. The stated goal was to prevent US funds from supporting the Cuban government, but the impact has been felt most acutely by the Cuban people. Families have been torn apart. Small businesses that thrived under increased American tourism are struggling to stay afloat. Students and artists find it harder to participate in international exchanges that once offered hope and growth. What began as a political stance has turned into an economic chokehold and a cultural silencing. These aren't mere policy points. They are devastating choices with real human costs. What ties all these restrictions together is a disturbing pattern. The targeted nations, Haiti, Jamaica, the Bahamas, the Dominican Republic, and Cuba, all share common threads. They are Caribbean, they are predominantly Black or Latino, and they have historically complex relationships with the US. While the Trump administration claims the actions are rooted in national security and immigration enforcement, critics argue that this is part of a broader agenda to curtail immigration from non-white countries. The data doesn't always support the narrative. In some cases, the countries being punished have lower visa overstay rates than those that remain unaffected. The decisions appear more ideological than logical. This fuels accusations that race, rather than risk, is the deciding factor in US immigration policy under Trump. To be fair, proponents of these measures argue that the policies are necessary. They claim the Caribbean region has been exploited by human traffickers, identity fraudsters, and criminal networks. From their perspective, tightening visa restrictions is a logical response to prevent illegal immigration, protect American jobs, and uphold national security. They stress that every country has a sovereign right to control its borders. But even if one accepts this premise, the manner in which these policies are implemented raises questions. Why single out certain countries with minimal warning or consultation? Why impose blanket restrictions that punish legitimate travelers and students? There must be a balance between sovereignty and humanity. Right now, that balance feels dangerously off. Lost in the noise of political debates and immigration statistics are the people. Students whose education is on hold, grandparents who can't hold their grandkids, entrepreneurs who can't access the markets they built their businesses on. These stories don't make headlines, but they reflect the reality of these decisions. When policies become tools of exclusion rather than instruments of protection, trust erodes. When an entire region feels alienated and targeted, diplomatic relationships suffer. These are not isolated incidents. They form a tapestry of discontent that could define how the Caribbean views its future with the United States. This isn't just a Caribbean issue. It's a global one. It's about how the world's most powerful nation chooses to engage with its neighbors. It's about whether immigration policy is guided by facts and fairness or by fear and favoritism. As these restrictions take root, the need for accountability grows stronger. Citizens, lawmakers, and civil society must ask hard questions. Are these policies just? Are they effective? And most importantly, are they humane? The answer to those questions will shape not only the future of Caribbean-American relations, but the soul of American immigration policy itself. Now is the time to speak up. Silence in the face of injustice is a form of complicity. The world is watching, and history will remember who stayed silent and who demanded better.